Hello and welcome to another We Are Developers Live, and this time it's a We Are Developers Alive. I'm in Durham, North Carolina, in America right now. I've just been at the All Things Open conference for 3 days, and I had to drink and party and talk to people and give presentations. And yeah, now it's 6 a.m. and I'm in my hotel room and I'm flying back home in the afternoon via Reykjavik of all places. So yeah, it's maybe Dan will do things more today because I'm kind of shattered. And there's like
I
all the
bet.
it's like all the things from minibar strewn around me. Who are these people in a second? No, anyways, it's good fun, and it was a great conference as always. Like the All Things Open, if you have been there, it's a very open source conference, much like Devox as well, and it's huge as well. So it was really big, and it was interesting because in the keynote they had a shared keynote with like four speakers, each of us 15 minutes. And before me was the head of GitHub accessibility. And
Mhm.
he had his seeing eye dog with him, and it's like this really cute, still misbehaving teenage German Shepherd. And it was really like tricky for him to get people excited because everybody's kind of like ooh and eyeing over the dog. And so I was not the first German on stage that evening, so that was good.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't know if that's like the best idea or the worst idea because you're guaranteed to get an audience if you're presenting with a dog, but you're guaranteed to have nobody listening. So, yeah.
Yeah. If you've ever not seen it, go to Instagram and just look up Irish president and this dog, because he's got this burner dog, and it's like the most misbehaving thing. And he's like there standing in front of a microphone giving some official announcement as the president of Ireland, and his dog is just chewing his hand and looking for his pockets for treats and stuff. And absolutely gorgeous. It's really, really lovely.
Love it. That's an added bonus then, isn't it, for your conference? Yeah, it looks great though, to be fair. Obviously, I only see it from afar on socials, and yeah, it looks great. But also that's quite a nice I don't know, I see sort of North Carolina and you see all these like huge, like almost like prairies, and like it looks beautiful. So yeah, it looks like a nice place to go.
Well, this is Raleigh, so it's all skyscrapers and like buildings, and
Ah,
there's a lot of research going on here. It's like the triangle with like three big universities and a lot of STEM research, and it's quite interesting to see what people do here. Well, I mean, we have a guest as well today, so I think we should get that person in because he's like chewing at the bits right now in the other screen here. Marius, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good, thank you. Unfortunately, I'm not with a dog here today, so sorry about that.
Nice. So you're in Munich
Yes,
and you work at Twilio. So what do you do there?
that's right. I do developer relations for Twilio. So if you've ever seen a Twilio booth at a developer conference in Germany, maybe you know one in Berlin, you usually find me there at a booth to tell people what Twilio does, what our latest products are, and cool things they can build with Twilio. Yeah.
You always had like your t-shirts rolled up in like these burrito style things. That was quite fun with Twilio. Like you always walk past and people try to eat them, and then like, yeah, no, it's a t-shirt. And
Yeah,
so
but they taste good as well.
and yeah, you're really satisfied. You don't have to eat anything afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just talked about the swag that I collected here. Like Microsoft had these little tux things because they did like Linux, Azure things. CodeRabbit has a thing to grow your own
hmm.
legal things, not illegal things. So yeah, it's basically that was quite fun. And there was a bug company called Kodo, not bug company, but fixing company, and they got these tight pants with your if your shirts are not clean and stuff. And yeah,
I need that.
they're great. Yeah, and uh, I was in Poland in a conference the other day, and I realized that I basically wasn't a developer conference because there was an email from the organizer saying like, okay, the hotel has only 4 irons, so if you actually want to iron your shirt, make sure that you actually go to reception and ask for it. And I'm like, I've never heard anybody at a developer conference ask for an iron to iron their shirt. We don't do that.
Yeah,
I'm
that doesn't seem authentic then.
Yeah.
no.
So you're like, your neighbors are drilling the walls right now. Are they trying to get
Yeah,
in or
sorry,
how?
I try to go and off mute all the time. I really hope they go on lunch break, the construction workers, soon. Then I don't have to go on mute and off mute all the time. But yeah, I hope it's not too bad for you.
No, I wanted to explain what it is because it sounded like bodily sounds from us, and that wasn't us. Cool. So Dan, what was tickling your fancy this week that I was gone and you were unsupervised?
Yeah, do you know what? I mean, I posted right at the end of last week an article about kind of the remote work, hybrid, in-office kind of debate, because even though it feels like a long time, we've just been having this debate, like, okay, what is best? We sort of see every year like a general kind of shift in the industry, whether it be, I think 2022, we saw a lot of the kind of back to office, you know, and we want you in full time or at least 3 days a week. But then on the flip side, we've got companies kind of proudly saying, no, we're just remote first now, and we don't want these big commercial real estate costs, so we're going to let our staff you know, go free. So I kind of got into that discussion quite a lot, and put that on the magazine, the end of last week. Been giving that a push this week. So it's good. We got some quotes and kind of voices from the community, really, just people that have either presented on live shows or the Congress, and got their kind of perspective, because we've got everything from hiring managers to, you know, seniors, juniors, everything in between, DevRel. So it's nice to kind of hear, and it's no surprises. Developers generally like working remotely.
How does
That's
Twilio do it?
interesting. Sorry.
How does Twilio do it? Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to. Yeah, basically Twilio is 100% remote as well. I think we still have the headquarters in San Francisco, and that's pretty much the only office I think we still have. Everyone else is working from home, but we have access to co-working spaces. So there's this platform. It's like an Airbnb for co-working spaces. So I just like log in with my Twilio credentials. I pick the co-working space I want to go to, and then it's booked. So it's not that I have to pay and get make an expense report or get reimbursed. It's just I book it, I go there, and that's a really great way to meet colleagues from your team, but also from other teams in the same region. But I should also say, I don't use it as often as I want, because one part of me always says like, yeah, I like to see other people, but then I'm also a bit lazy and I stay at home. But tomorrow I meet others. Seriously.
Yeah, you have to wear trousers when you go out and interact with people. It's just not right. Like it's
Exactly.
yeah. What I found interesting when I did that in Berlin with WeAreDevelopers and also with Microsoft before, when you went to these co-working spaces, it's also a really good thing to do some spot testing with people. Like you got like people from startups around you, and you're like, hey, can you take a look at that API? Would you do it like that? And that's the really cool thing about it. That basically, and yeah, impromptu interviews and like podcasty things. That's where sharing spaces are really good. But yeah, in Berlin, in my neighborhood, there's none, so that's the other issue. But fair enough. Cool. Shall we see what kind of stuff we collected to want to talk about? Dan is going to run them today because I don't want to jump between like my monitor and the other one. So maybe bump up the font a bit, and because I can't.
I'm just going to. I think my screen share there, I'm just going to reset that, because I think actually schoolboy error. It's only for some reason showing you the tab that I'm currently looking at. So we'll do that one more time. Even though I did select window, there we go.
That's anything but a schoolboy window error. I mean, it's like, oh, I've never heard anybody schoolboy making the mistake of sharing the wrong screen. That's just like, no.
Yeah, it's really it's doing the old now, you know, yes, you have to completely reopen Chrome. So you're going to see me disappear for 1 second on the other app, but it's okay. I'm going to stay here on this one. Brilliant.
Okay.
So go for it, Marius.
No, I just want to like bridge the time. Chris, I have a question to you. I noticed the trend at developer conferences in the recent years. Plushies are a big thing. Like, I mean, you can see like the Twilio ones in the background, but at WeAreDevelopers World Congress, I think there were at least 7 or 8 companies. You already showed one, but were there many sponsors that had plushies?
That's an interesting one. I don't think many. I've seen a few others, and I mean, but yeah, I've seen big things. I mean, people had like lightsabers and these kind of things that they gave out. Lots of T-shirts, lots of socks. I like that. I like when some companies are basically Beyond Tellerrand is one of my favorite conferences. It's a boutique conference, and he always tells all the sponsors to actually align a bit. So you can get a T-shirt at one booth, you get socks at the other, you can get boxer shorts at another, so you're actually dressed for the second day already. So that's pretty good. But yeah, it feels always like I think people are getting more better at like giving out stuff that actually makes sense and things that is not just plasticky stuff that you don't need. Because it was always very depressing when you are in the Silicon Valley or a big conference in San Francisco and you're staying in the hotel and you're staying an extra day. And then you see like all this stuff that people took at the event, they left at their hotel room and the cleaners are then throwing away. And that just feels so wasteful, and it's so expensive to get to print these things. So I think it's important to actually give out things that make sense. it's interesting how fast things expire as well in terms of usefulness. I remember when battery packs for like your mobile phone was a thing that everybody gave out, and most of them are then not strong enough to charge any phone 5 years later. Or like the charger cables that are basically USB-C, USB-A to like mini USB, and you're like, okay, I don't need those anymore. But of course, like every other human on this planet, I have one big plastic bag full of charger cables and connectors at home in case I need to connect that 17-year-old mobile phone to something again.
Yeah.
I got this Bluetooth speaker from one of them as well, but that was just as a speaker present kind of thing. Yeah, they don't know what they did to the people in the hotel here.
But that's nice.
So, yeah, let's take a peek at like what we talked about, where it's at. I found that very interesting because it's basically it's a new protocol to actually JSON-based that allows you to do Fediverse things and connect things with each other. But I found that I love things like that, but I wonder if there's any adoption of that. And I mean, the same with when we had people from Mastodon here on the show. It's great, but it's hard to understand. And but I found this an interesting approach to do like an own pseudo like protocol kind of thing. But Dan, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I like the idea in principle. I think that the idea of it kind of, being that the data is owned by the user and that you can take it with you is always, I think, going to be a positive. I think you hit the nail on the head, though, around the way that it's actually communicated. Because, the average reader of this article is likely to be a developer or somebody with technical knowledge, but the average user of the social media platforms is not. So I think it's about how you can kind of, whether we abstract away some of that complexity and make it so that it's simpler for the user to understand. I don't know, but I think that's always going to be the end result, really, is what impact does it actually have for the average user, not us nerds who like this side of it,
Well, I mean, you and Twilio work with like SMS protocols, all kind of pseudo protocols. Did you take a peek at that, or do you do anything Fediverse-y?
I mean, I looked at this post, and I mean, I agree with you. It sounds really nice, and it brings a bit back the idea of the open web that's distributed. But one thing that I noticed immediately is you probably need to have the same username and user handle on all platforms, so this would work. And like that, sometimes it's just, I mean, obviously, if you're like a big corporation or company, you probably have the same handle everywhere. But for an like average user, you maybe just need to add a dash at the end of your username because it's already taken. And then I guess this is already not working anymore. But the idea is really nice. Yeah. And what was your question about the Twilio part? Sorry.
Do you do any Fediverse federation stuff, APIs or anything like that? Authentication to it?
No, I mean, I think a lot of like these companies use us for authentication, but we don't directly like work with them, or we don't like embed their services in that sense now. At least not so far.
Cool. All right. What do we have next?
From here about the risks. Using
VPNs can bear immense risks. Immense bears are never a good idea. They're always dangerous. And but yeah, it's. I found that interesting because it was on Deutsche Welle, like a very old classic German platform, news platform. But yeah, it's ridiculous how many people are just. I think we had that 5 times on the show. Like, don't download free VPNs. They're basically just malware in disguise. And yeah, it's not worth that. They're cheap to do. I'm actually wondering. I mean, VPNs should be part of an operating system by now. I think paying extra for it feels weird, but at the same time, I mean, trying to. I don't know if I would use a Windows or an Apple VPN because it feels like you use a VPN to hide your stuff from big data, right? Like rather than like being part of that. I don't know which one. Marius, do you use VPNs, and which ones do you do?
Oh, you're muted there, Marius.
Can't hear you.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a Google Plus subscription. I think technically there's a VPN that comes with it, but I don't ever use it for exactly the reason you mentioned. So what I just have a Hetzner like VPN that I hosted myself, or still hosting myself, and it's just a one-click deploy, and it's like I took the cheap option. So it was cheaper than any of the other options. So I said, okay, I just host it myself. I think WireGuard is the client that I use to connect it to, and then But also the only reasons why I use a VPN is that when I'm maybe on vacation and I want to watch something in the public German TV, or when they have a IP check to geofence. But for regular everyday surfing, I actually don't use the VPN.
Hetzner fascinates me. They're always a sponsor of the event as well, and they're a huge German provider, like hosting provider. And I remember when it was Herr Hetzner and you called them on the phone, like one of my first servers was there, and you basically had to fax them your orders and things. And now it's like this huge company, and I was like, I completely lost sight of it. And it's quite fun to basically see like people that back then you called on the phone when your server was not available, and it was just him in his office, basically. That's quite amazing. So yeah, I mean, this is an interesting one. I love that one. I mean, we're also gonna have a World Congress in America, and I'm trying to get people from 404 Media as to give some talk, because I'm really excited about what they do. It's a very like independent news source and very outspoken in their beliefs and not beliefs in their research. And yeah, I mean, I love that Sora 2 came out and everybody was like excited, and like there's all kind of cool stuff going on with it. You can build your videos with it. I tweeted about or tweeted or Blue Sky, does it even work? About the Sora extender as well that allows you to get past the 12 seconds and connect like several videos automatically with each other. And yeah, but as soon as it came out, the same with like when ChatGPT became successful, the App Store got flooded with lots and lots of copycat apps. And this is always the thing that drives me crazy when people say like app stores are safer than the open web because you can trust the resource, and then it happens every single time that people manage to put all these like fake Sora things in there. How do you know which one to use? It feels like very, very bait and switch of like lots of companies to do that. It will be interesting to talk to the people of Sora, like what they think about it. It must feel flattering, but it also must feel very bad. Do you edit videos? Do you create?
Go for it, Marius.
Oh, sorry. I mean, I just want to say, I'm wondering if these copycat apps also use the real Sora API, and if OpenAI still makes money in the end, or if it's just like a money grab and then it uses an outdated model.
Probably. I mean, why would you put a fake app there? Then you have to pay to OpenAI. Like, I mean, that's also the big thing we don't talk about. That every startup that does AI stuff that basically under the hood has to use the systems, it's going to be really hard to make money with it, because subscription models, developers don't want to pay $100 a month for your cool AI IDE, and you have to pay like $90 a month to OpenAI just to make it happen. So that model doesn't gel at all. Dan, have you looked at Sora 2 or VO3 and the new stuff that came out?
Yeah, Sora 2, actually, I thought it was interesting because I was about to show my brother, and before I could show him, he showed me. And I thought, okay, this is broken out into the kind of mainstream, right? Where it's sort of in the same way as when ChatGPT landed, it was a big moment. And then a lot of the other models from that moment on, it's like, okay, there's lots of models, we get it. Sora, it has actually felt like there is this step, and it was largely because the videos my brother was showing me were ones like, look at this deep fake. They were all these kind of dodgy uses. They weren't just like, oh, look how realistic this footage looks. It was, look, I can take this person and I can put them in this fake situation, or I can, create something that looks real. And so it's a bit worrying for me, and it's even more worrying that naturally developers do what developers do, which is it becomes like a cat and mouse game. Like if you're going to put a watermark on, then I'm going to see how easily I can remove it. So it's really exciting, but like all the stories I've seen over the last week have all been a lot of worry around things like deepfake. So it seems like it's not being received, at least outside of the developer community, with a great deal of just like, this is an amazing model. It's actually a little bit of a scary time as well.
I think there's also the good enough but really creepy moment at it as well. I mean, like the whole like whatever his name is, eating spaghetti thing, and how that changed over the years. And I mean, I'm when you talked about German television the other day, I saw a report on like famous people with depression, and they had all these deep fakes of what Sissy would look like, or what famous people of history, like they had these deep fake videos of Churchill, and it always looks like kind of impressive, but it always like there's this glitchy things in like every second or third frame where you just like nobody moves like that still, and it also feels like I looked at this and I thought like this report would have been good enough without that, but it seems like we put these things in right now just to make it look amazing, and like the amazing of today looks like the embarrassing of tomorrow, maybe. Like we're like, oh god. I mean, when they did the mainstream videos, like when they get like Moff Tarkin in the Star Wars movie, or the de-aging of like X-Men thing, and de-aging just did not look good in like most things before that, and yeah, it's weird. Yeah, talking
On
about
that
the
note,
aging, Mr. Beast says AI could threaten. I didn't put it in, I think, but there was also an answer already from the chief of Instagram that said like it's not real and it doesn't mean that, and there's ways around that. But yeah, I mean, it makes me wonder. I mean, I never followed any of his stuff, but I'm also not 12, and it just the creator thing. I had that yesterday. I talked to people, and they unironically said, like, "Oh, a friend of mine is content creator, and content creator always sounds like so anticlimactic to me. Like, yeah, he does stuff, he writes words and things, you know, like, but I mean, it's a multi-million-dollar industry, and I found that by now, the algorithm changes in YouTube, I think, actually a worse issue than AI threat. Because I mean, we see it in this program as well. Like the whole viral thing that you do something cool and people will watch it. It doesn't happen. You to have success on YouTube, you have to spend money on YouTube ads, and that's just because the algorithm is so brutal, favoring the people who pay, that it's really hard to get seen. But yeah, if you have his status, it's probably a different thing. And now Google announced that they're actually devaluing AI generated content. But I guess if it's hybrid, if there's just AI generated content in your other things, then yeah, I don't know.
I know that there was a lot of I saw a story around Mr. Beast a couple of weeks ago, and how it was very strange. It was some YouTuber that had picked up on essentially his teeth throughout the video would change, and they realized that there were just some shots where they would AI enhance his teeth, and then some shots where they wouldn't, and it didn't seem to even be consistent. But you know, he is somebody who's probably using AI more than we realize, if we go by that kind of idea that the teeth are probably a sign of a bigger thing. But at the same time, you know, I get what you're saying, that it's now turning into a big game of just like, can we, you know, put the right amount of money in to kind of manufacture that viral moment, and if we can use AI to create content that's more likely to go viral, it's just going to be a race to the bottom of people creating shocking fake content purely to go viral with no substance whatsoever, and the dead internet will have arrived. Oh, I even got some fireworks. There you go. There's our viral moment. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a nice like way to end your sentence with firework.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, when I read the article, I was specifically, I stopped at this. You can also see it currently in like the end of the first paragraph. Millions of creators currently making their living with content creation. I was like, millions? That seemed like a huge number, and it's like,
yeah,
should the number be that big? That is what I was thinking then, and maybe the AI will save us there.
yeah. I mean, that's what I thought as well. Like, I mean, I follow a lot of stuff on YouTube that is like original content creation, but all of it is like really old. There's like filmmakers that show like how to make movies and how these kind of things. But just like the content creation of like, oh, somebody sent me something, I unbox it live. Like, yeah. During COVID, of course, the whole thing skyrocketed. You couldn't buy microphones anymore because everybody thought they have to have a podcast. But maybe not everybody has to. Maybe it's not that interesting what you have to say. And I'm not censoring here. I'm just saying, like, yeah, make it worthwhile, make it interesting, and then maybe you get a chance to actually get a following and do things. And yeah, that Mr. Beast kind of style, just shouting at people and like bang, 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 bang. That just it just overwhelms me basically watching it. So it's not for me at all. So I don't know. So yeah, Ruby Gems thing, that was a big hoo-ha, and now they're the Gem Cooperative. I don't know if that's gonna happen. Do you use Ruby, Marius, or?
Personally, no. I've done a class in university way back then with Ruby on Rails, and that's also where my Ruby journey ended. So I mean, I every now and then this like story goes in the next round when like this corporation that took it over and the community fighting against it. I don't think that's a good thing, but at the same time, I'm not part of the community, so I cannot really tell like what happened there and what things happened before, so we got in this situation.
Yeah, I think same with us. I just wanted to list it that it's actually that Jam Co-op is now the new place for Ruby Gems after people got kicked out of GitHub. Do of it what you will. I wish them luck to actually grow the thing, but I don't think it's going to be that easy. Same with React Foundation. I mean, Google, Facebook basically said like, okay, we don't support React the way we did, I guess, and now it's a foundation to have more independent support for React, which is yeah, it's good, but it's not an open standard. So I always found that like the thing, and to me this kind of reeks of what I call farm sourcing. You know, like when you basically it's open sourced, when the company doesn't want to support a product anymore, they basically make it open source and hope for a community to take it on. It's like when the dog's dead and we're like, it's not dead, we send it to the farm. And it's the same with that, like the product will not be maintained by the company that did it anymore. And yeah, and now we going that they hand it over to something open to make sure it keeps going, but that could have been from the very get-go, you know.
Does it surprise either
I
of
don't.
you that that's when it says that line there over a decade ago? That just to me seemed like it had gone quite quickly. Because we still think of like, you know, the frameworks as being quite a new, and I suppose relative to the web they are, but you know, when to see it actually of being over a decade, I thought, yeah, maybe it is the right time for it to change. But yeah, I think I hear what you're saying, Chris. Good point.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, it was like, oh, it's a decade old, and I still haven't started using it. So I'm like, I'm always like, oh, when I find the time, I will take a peek at it. But nah, okay, cool. So yeah, you can write PS2 games in JavaScript now, and I found that fascinating because I was part of a team that worked PS1 games, and back then we had to get the SDK from Sony, and they send us a PlayStation, and we had to send all of that back when the game was done. And now open sourcing a way to write something for an old console is quite interesting.
I think it's also just in that era. I mean, I don't know about both of you, but at least for me, if I was going to make a game, it would purely be for fun, and I wouldn't necessarily want to have to go and kind of learn a completely new stack for it. I would want to just do it in my native, if you like, language. And that's really exciting to be able to make. I mean, there's so much nostalgia there, right? And the creativity, is so much opportunity.
It would be interesting to know if you could actually also vibe code it with JavaScript now. Because I'm also not willing to learn any JavaScript framework for writing PS2 games.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's cool that I mean, there's a whole scene of hacking and opening old consoles and basically reverse engineer to allow people to build indie games on it, and I find that really cool because yeah, PS2 they don't care anymore, I guess, but Nintendo Switch would be another story. So yeah, it's an interesting copyright thing. Vibe linking, Dan, what was that about? That was a bit of odd one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's sort of unusual because at first I was sort of, okay, so what's the point? But actually it is quite interesting. So it's the idea that if we look at that one at the bottom, that you would put in a certain query, and then based on that, it will almost like the, what was it they used to call it on Google? Like, I'm feeling lucky. It's from what I can see, it's kind of that, right? But it's using an AI model to decide upon the, you know, the actual end result or the destination. But in essence, that's what it is, that you would search for things, put in your query, and then it will choose the location that it thinks is the best destination, which sounds a bit like the whole agentic coding. And, you know, that's the impression we have of just like, we will ask it what we want, and then it will do the reasoning and send us or give us the information or do the thing that we think we want it to do. So I think this is quite an interesting way of at least putting it in front of you and letting you see how that could work.
I mean, it was. I mean, there was a moment in time about 2 years where search engines did exactly that. You just typed random stuff into it, and the search engine would either give you the result, like if it was a calculation, or if it was like show me stuff near me, and it showed the map immediately. And then it became like 15 ads of you might have thought of that rather than the result. So it feels like this is like Google 5 years ago, and I hate that it got away. Like I love using just the URL bar to type random things in, and then the search engine would give me a valid result back to that was useful. And nowadays it's just like 5 ads of like other things. Don't you really mean that one? You're like, no, I typed in Edge and that Edge browser, and I don't want to have an ad for Opera. That makes no sense to me. Like, but yeah, this is an interesting way to get that that sorted, and it will be interesting how people are trying to game that and actually see how they get their listed things for different keywords, kind of thing. But for that, it has to become big, and I don't think it will be. I made you happy with that one, didn't I, Dan?
Oh, so much fun. I like anything. We've had this, in the past. I like anything that is weird. And I mean that in the sense of you can make it. I'm not sure why you've made it, but I'm glad that you did. That kind of reaction, and this is exactly it. The one thing the viewers are not getting right now is the real full effect of the audio, because it does have the song Don't Go Chasing. Maybe I won't say the title, copyright, I don't know. But yeah, brilliant. Chris, I always ask though, where do you find these things? Because it's like whatever the online equivalent is of the back of the sofa, it's like when you put your hand down, you don't know what you're going to get. That's what you managed to find. I love it.
I think that wasn't a newsletter, but normally I find these really weird things at beta.com, b3ta.com, and that has been a creative community for decades. And I've been a big member of that one, published a lot of stuff there. And yeah, Rob, the guy who runs it, now does Fesshole in England, which is this where people can do, and there's even a TV show, I think, and the original came from Channel 4. And yeah, the backstories of Beta was amazing back then. Like it was commissioned by Channel 4 because they wanted to have funny little flash animations in between TV shows that they wanted to show. And they said like, be edgy that you want and be like creative things. And a lot of people went onto it. It was written by the guy who wrote Flickr later on as well, the platform itself. And yeah, it was basically unhinged humor, very creative stuff. And yeah, Channel 4 looked at it and said, like, that's exactly what we wanted. There's no way we can show anything of that on public television. So you can have the rights back for £1 if you want to keep that thing. And it was really interesting. But yeah, it's untethered creativity and like very inappropriate humor.
Did you actually check out JSON, what it contains? I mean, I didn't. I was just wondering if you did.
I think it's the lyrics mostly.
Yeah, I think it is.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
and even sync to the audio that it shows you the thing. I mean, that's the thing. I have it in the tools of the newsletter this week. The biggest problem of JSON as a data format, it doesn't stream. Like it basically needs to be a valid JavaScript to actually give you the information that you have. So if you only have a chunk of JSON data, then you actually cannot use it. Whereas like if you store your data in other formats, you can get the chunk packages and already start rendering them. So that's one big drawback of JSON that I hadn't thought of before, because when JSON was defined, there was no streaming kind of like data on the web thing except for in Flash. Cool. So yeah, the least amount of TLS to a decent looking site. Yeah, I mean, Kevin is great. I love his videos, and he's like super excited about everything. And that feels to me like one of those CSS reset things that basically becomes people start being opinionated about it and other people disagree with it. And I find this is a very good starting point that he's done there. And yeah, it's just, if you don't want to think about CSS, stop saying it's not a programming language, just use something like that and basically don't think about it.
Yeah. And I have to say, I was skeptical when I saw it, but then I read through it. It's like, actually, it's absolutely minimal. There's nothing you don't need, and it still looks very decent at the end. I mean, I think when you watch the video at the end, he added each like CSS element like gradually over the 10-minute video or however long it is, and then you can really see this looks much better in the end than in the beginning.
So that
might be worth just
yeah.
I was just thinking jumping to this one as well, because it's linking, because you can see that he's using his color scheme light dark, and we've done an article on that recently of how the light dark function can be used. So that simple way of adding dark mode, we see people adding so much code to achieve it when it's just built in.
Yeah, and this one is even cleverer because it doesn't use any type of value, and it uses the function CSS and the if CSS. So it's a really, really clever way of making that happen. But that's again one of those things you show that to any programmer, and he's like, okay, that's not programming, that's just weird. I have no idea what's going on there. But yeah, Bramus does some really, really interesting stuff. And this is just, yeah, this is kind of dark magic or light magic, depending on what you want to have, which setting. Cool. Handy, that's not about mobile phones in Germany, but it's basically, it allows you to speak into any text field. And that kind of is your playground, wasn't it, Marius?
Yes, but I have to say, admit, I didn't know that website. I checked it out, and it looked quite nice, especially if you're lazy and you don't want to type. And that is definitely me. So I should use that more often. In the past I used I think Google Docs has a built-in version, but that is not nearly as good as this one.
Yeah. It's weird that and it's private. That's the other thing. Like it does it even work offline? Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, maybe. We'll see. But yeah, it's lovely. I really, really enjoy. We should get him in to talk about it. That's actually quite fun. And yeah, I like that it has 4 fingers. I
Good
mean,
spot.
yeah, but I mean, every animation has. Mickey Mouse has 4 fingers, and there's actually this research where they showed like how much hours they saved by hand animating the Disney movies back then by basically making 4 fingers instead of 5, because that was one way why they did it, and it actually looks kind of better in animation. My favorite bit about this, we made jokes about it in the past that like you have AI bits where you have like 6 fingers and stuff, and Mel Brooks, the guy from Spaceballs and like all these 1970s completely outrageous movies, and the producers as well, the show. He actually, when he got his Hall of Fame, Walk of Fame thing, the star in Hollywood, he wore a prosthetic finger, and he basically his has like 6 fingers on one hand and 5 fingers on the other hand. And that was, I think, in the 90s or something, where he already pulled that prank. And when he did Spaceballs, he asked George Lucas, if he actually make it. Like it's a spoof of Star Wars, of course. So he asked if there's a right to do it, and he said that he can do whatever, but the Lone Star, that fake Han Solo, cannot have the same clothing as Han Solo, because that was a copyright thing. So that's why when you watch Spaceballs, the Han Solo, the Lone Star is actually wearing the clothes of Indiana Jones. So he was like trolling him in the other direction. It was absolutely clever.
Brilliant.
This is a thing that I'm fascinated that is not part of Finder, isn't it? Like it's so useful.
Yeah. I mean, 2 days ago, I was doing something where I needed exactly this. I was just lots of things in zip files, and I was having to unzip them all before I could see what was in it. And I had that exact thought. So yeah, I haven't bought it yet, but I would use this. Can you see yourselves actually finding a use for this, or are you so used to just unzip and do it manually?
I mean, I used like Marta in the past, and Total Commander, and these 2 panel file editors, and that allow you to look into zip files as well. But I can definitely see that being smoother experience for it as well, and just the preview of what's in the folder without having to go to uncheck the folder or just keep it in that list view is another interesting thing. But yeah, it's interesting how Mac keeps coming up with cool new stuff, and Finder is like the redheaded stepchild, because that didn't get any changes in the last 40 years or something. I guess it's one of those things, if you change it, you annoy a lot of people, so that might be that issue. But it's interesting if you want to take a peek. And I also like that it's just like, okay, pay me, like not, and like, yeah, it's there. Cool. I think let's get into your main topic, Mario. So you wanted to talk about agents, and what was the mouthful that you sent us? Minimal infrastructure for real-time phone agents, transcript in, responses out. What is that about?
Yes, so it's basically a Twilio product that we announced last year. And or maybe if I go right in the presentation, let me first give out a shout out to the European version of Twilio's developer conference. It's happening on November 19th in London. So if you're in the UK and you want to hear what's new with Twilio, make sure to scan the QR code to save your spot. I will be there. I'll be happy to talk to you about anything Twilio. And this is also the place where we announced Conversation Relay last year as a public beta, and by now it's GA. And this is also what I will talk about in my presentation. Oh, 1 second. Next slide. Yep. And exactly, I will show you minimal infrastructure that you can that you need to build a phone agent. And a phone agent is basically an AI you can call on your phone, so either your mobile phone or even your landline. So you call or dial the number, and then you can ask the agent, what's the weather in Munich? Do I need a raincoat when I go out? But you can also give it any instruction, and then with, for example, MCP servers, it can perform them. And really, the minimal infrastructure, I would say, is the bare minimum you need. So you need a Twilio account, because that's your central dashboard for all things communication, where you can purchase the phone number, an OpenAI account, or any other LLM provider if you prefer that, and less than 100 lines of TypeScript. And we will actually build that together, or you will see me building it in a second. But first, I want to show you this clip from the OpenAI Dev Day that happened last week.
Personally, I think that voice is going to become one of the primary ways that people interact with AI. And this is a big leap towards that reality.
So I hope you were able to hear the audio. Otherwise, I messed something up earlier.
We did, yeah.
Awesome. So my question now, this is interactive, Chris, then to you is, why do you think is the input-output of voice better than the written word, or how much better is it? Do you have an estimate?
We talked about that before, and we were kind of critical about it, because there is the thing like speaking to the machine is much, much faster, and turning it into something useful. But having to listen and parse it in your head as a human is actually, it takes longer than actually reading, because you can't, it's synchronous and not asynchronous. Reading is asynchronous because you can skim a text and only read every 5th word or so. Audio is always like synchronous with that. But yeah, I understand the feature of it, how faster it is, because people are bad at typing. And I think if it comes to like input, I would say like that speech to text is probably like 60% faster.
I went for a lower estimate, by the way. I actually thought like 30%. I thought that as like an average, you know, like you're saying, Chris, you save some time on one end, but you lose some time on the other. So I actually think the savings might not be that big. I'm going to say like 30%, 25, something like that.
Okay, nice. So actually, I agree with what both of you say. So I have these numbers from the blog post that is linked below from Julian. Obviously, it's very hard to average this across all humans. It depends on what kind of text is it, in which mood are you. But the numbers that he mentioned in his post is like 250 words per minute reading, and writing 60 words per minute. And then when we talk about like the spoken word, hearing is faster. I agree, Chris. It's like, how much can you actually process? But hearing, I think, generally speaking, people agree that you can hear faster. And then the big difference is the speaking. And I agree with the understanding part, but again, this is very depending on the domain. And if you're like writing, you need something in your hands, or you need to have your hand on the keyboard, on your smartphone. If you're reading, you have to look at something. And the big advantage of like the spoken word is my hands are free and I can look anywhere. I can look like in the eyes of another person when I talk to them. I can like maybe drive the car. So it's just, I think if it's a low cognitive task, I think the benefits are clearly outweighing for like hearing or for the spoken word. And I think that is where we see AI. I don't the use cases for speaking with AI. It's not going anywhere with certain really complex tasks. There, I think there's a good reason why humans invented the written word. But other use cases, that's really interesting to see how voice could be used. And I think this is also a nice like trivia fact about Twilio, because most developers out there probably know us for our messaging API to send text messages, WhatsApp, and so on. But actually, the first channel that Twilio released for developers was voice. And only 2 years later, messaging was added. And voice is still used by a lot of big companies when they basically run their contact centers or so. But for developers, like voice has been not so interesting in the years, like let's say in the last 7-8 years. But this changed with ChatGPT when this came out, and like 11 Labs and DeepGram and all these voice models, that developers were like more curious what they can build with voice and how they can use like phone calls to connect it to AI. And for that, many of them chose next slide, this architect. It's not really an architecture, but it's like a list of things they had to consider. And this basically turned out really the hard way, because they had to connect a caller to their business application, and then they had to deal with automatic speech recognition, interruption detection, because obviously you want to be able to interrupt the AI if it misunderstands something, or if it just gives you a really long answer, but it actually already answered your question with the first few words. So this is really crucial for a good voice agent. You need to have a text-to-speech, and that also comes with some latency together with the speech recognition, because most likely you're not building this on your own. You're using like maybe a Google service, AWS service, 11 Labs, DeepGram, one of these kind, and then you have the latency from the phone call to your data center, to the speech recognition, latency back, then you send it to an LLM, latency back, and then maybe text-to-speech. And this is really hard to do the right way. And then if you manage to do all of that, then you can actually start like working on the business logic and actually making the app or the voice agent useful for your customers and clients. And that's why we at Twilio thought, like, why don't we abstract this away from the developers? So the smarter way that we propose with Conversation Relay is that the callers basically, the caller is connected to the business application, but Twilio already is in the middle anyway, because we are basically the communication channel, and we could take care of speech recognition, interruption detection, text-to-speech, and then the application developers only need to worry about their application logic and which LLM they want to use. So they can use a default one, they can use fine training, or they can use fine training to improve the quality of the LLM. But this is all related to their business domain, and they don't have to worry if they should use this provider for speech recognition or the other one, and how to integrate it. And thing worth calling out is that also we at Twilio, we don't have our own speech model, but we work together with partners such as 11 Labs, DeepGram, AWS, and you can just set it in the configuration. We take care of the connection to these data centers. We make sure the latency is as low as possible. So this is almost instant for your web application. And the way this would look in maybe a more hands-on chart is the caller would connect to Twilio. So they dial a number that you purchased in the Twilio console. Twilio Conversation Relay transcribes everything as text, and we send this text to your application as a WebSocket. You can handle the text whatever you want. You can, again, do some checking. You can have some guardrails. You can connect to an LLM of your choice. And then you reply back with text via the same WebSocket. And Twilio kind of then makes sure the text-to-speech is happening with a really low latency. And with that, I would start with the demo. I quickly want to also highlight this graphic here maybe. This shows the same thing as you've seen in the previous slide, but here you see when a call comes into Twilio, Twilio translates this into something we web developers understand, an HTTP request with some header data or some form data that defines who's the caller, who's the callee, and then your application can reply with some instructions. In this case, it's called TWIML, Twilio XML. So you see the XML structure with some configuration, and then Twilio translates these instructions into spoken words that your caller will hear again. With that, I quickly need to switch my screen sharing so you see my VS Code. 1 second.
I love the says ahoy thing, because that was how Alexander Graham Bell said, like, we should actually answer a telephone call when he invented it. Ahoy was supposed to be the first thing you say in every telephone call. We never did that. We really let him down.
Yeah. I think there's this urban legend that in the very first call that he made, he replied with ahoy, or he answered with ahoy.
Yeah.
So he started, but then we let him down. Let me find
Which is odd because ahoy is such a natural thing to say.
Yeah. Entire screen 1. So nice. You should see my VS Code now, hopefully.
We do, yeah.
Perfect. So let's start writing a new application or WebSocket server. I used Dino for it because I really like the simplicity of it. Have you used Dino before?
Yeah, we had Joe Franchetti on the show, who's actually from Dino, and she talked about that stuff as well.
Oh, nice. So I go into this directory, I open the main TS file, and there's already some code in here. I don't want to use that default code, but I start with my new web server. So I start with Dino serve, define an async function that gets a request, and then let's see how Copilot supports me or sabotages me today. So the first thing is I parse the upgrade header. And if there is an upgrade header that says the request wants to upgrade to WebSocket server, then let's actually do that. And now is the first, not if it's unequal, but if it's equal to WebSocket, then I do the upgrade. And for now, I just return the response back. And I don't do anything with the WebSocket server for now. And if it's not an upgrade request, it probably means it's a regular HTTP request, and I need to return the instructions that we want to use conversation relay. So for that, I parse the host name from the request, and then I return a response that is not hello from host name, but I generate some TWIML instructions. And I pass in the host name, and because, as I mentioned before, TWIML is an XML, I have to set a content type in the header and close the Dino serve function up here, and then I define this generate TWIML function. It passes in the host name, and then I have a WebSocket server URL that basically points. It's really trying to sabotage me here today. It's basically a WebSocket server that points to the same host name, that lives in the same host name. Let's call this. And then I return the TWIML. So I have this XML header, I have a response, and then I have a connect because I want to connect to my conversation relay. Let's actually call this conversation relay tag here. And then I define the URL of the WebSocket server. I define the language I want to use. So this is the configuration with my text-to-speech and speech-to-text providers. So the language, let's set it to English. I have a text-to-speech provider that is 11 labs. And the voice is not Josh, but that actually has an ID that I need to look up in my cheat sheet. 1 second. Oh, here I have it.
Trying to see if you're sending Morse code with the bumping on the keyboard, but it's not.
That's actually copied from here. And last but not least, I have a welcome greeting. So this is the initial greeting that someone will hear when the phone is being picked up. So hello from, let's say, hi from WeAreDevelopers Live. And then I close the conversation relay tag, I close the connect tag and the response tag. So this looks all good. So if I scroll up, let's actually define what happens when a message comes in via this WebSocket server or on the WebSocket channel. So I say socket on message, and then I parse the message payload. So that's basically there's a string in the data property that I parse to be able to understand what a JSON says. And then if it's of type prompt, which means the user says something, I return something on the web, or let's actually log it to the console first, receive prompt, and then I say socket. I send a reply back that I need to stringify, the type is text, the token is basically what should be set. So let's say hi from Dino for now. And then I need to set this flag last equals to true. That means the AI starts to speak immediately. If I could set this to false, especially if I'm streaming a reply and I don't have the full string available yet, or maybe it stopped in the middle of a word, then I would not set last to true. And only when I then send a message with last equals true, then it would speak everything that is basically in the pipeline. So then this is everything that I do when the message is of type prompt. If it's any other type, I just log unknown message type to the console, and then I close everything, close all brackets here. That looks hopefully good. And I can test my Dino server. So I use Dino allow net because I want to allow network connection for this application and access to the environment variables. I don't need this right now, but I need this in a second. So I already have that in there. So I start a server on port 8000 and I expose this port 8000 with ncroc to my ncroc URL. And then I can test it here. If I go to moba.ncroc.io, this is how I get my Trimmer reply back. So with that, let's actually go to the Twilio console and let's purchase a new number and connect this number to my web server that I have here. Obviously, it logged me out.
What's your password?
Yeah, test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I just go through all numbers.
Great success.
So when you log into Twilio console, you can purchase numbers. You can do, as I said before, do text messaging with the numbers, voice calls. And for now, I go to manage numbers, buy a number. I actually want to buy one from Germany. One that does voice only is fine. And I'm based in Munich, so I search for the area code 89 in Munich, and I buy the number. I'm a business, so you need to do some registration before you are able to buy a number. This is not up to Twilio. This is just like local regulations. So if you want to purchase a phone number in the UK, for example, this would be would look different for you. But that's all I had to do to basically buy this phone number. I can click on configure, and then I see this voice configuration. And whenever a call comes in, it should call this webhook. I set it to get now, but I guess post would also work because I didn't specify in my code which HTTP verb I want to reply to specifically. And now I can call this number. Let's make my life a bit easier, and let's so that I don't have to copy the number, but I can just scan this QR code, and then I will call it and go on speaker.
Developers Live.
Hey, how are you doing?
Hi from Deno.
So you can see the transcription is instantly coming in here.
Hi from Deno.
But I always get the same reply, but this is because I always send the same reply back here.
Hi from Deno.
But if I say a lot of words really fast and I don't make a break and I wait, and I keep on talking and then I pause, let's see how long it takes for the prompt to come in.
Hi from Deno.
So you see, this works really fast. There's almost no latency. This is really almost instant. And if you look really closely, you see maybe it gets a few words wrong, but that's not a problem because if we now send this to a LLM, the LLM can still make sense of it. I mean, you should know what, probably you shouldn't know how I type to ChatGPT. The spaces, they're in random places. They're not in between, they're in a word, but they're not separating words. They're just like somewhere sprinkled across, and the LLM usually can still make sense of that. So let me actually import the OpenAI package here from, since we live in the Dino world, I will use JSR and not NPM. OpenAI OpenAI, and then I initialize the client. It passes the environment variable from, passes the key from the environment variables, and then I write a function that is called AI response that gets a prompt, that is a string. I always hit the wrong key here today, and a callback function that then gets a chunk of the reply back. Why don't I return the full reply as the return parameter of this function? Well, because I want to stream the reply back. Because if I waited for the full reply from OpenAI, this would just add some additional latency that I don't want to have for a phone or voice agent, because it should be as instant as possible. So I rather say stream the responses back, and when I get the first part, I can already basically read out that reply to the user, and I don't have to wait for the full time, but it actually just is faster. So for that, I use the responses API. I use the GPT-5 Nano model that I also announced last week. I set this streaming parameter to true. One thing that I noticed is that I can also have the add some tools. And I use a web search tool, so I can basically ask questions that about like sport results or something that is very recent and before the cutoff date. And I can set the reasoning effort to low. This also helps to get a faster reply. And for the input, I only have one input parameter for now, or one element in this array, and that's the prompt of the user. And I noticed I have a typo here.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's actually weird that it repeats it, right? Like if you have a typo and it keeps repeating the typo, then that's odd.
Yeah, but at least the AI didn't mess up my code this time, so that's something. And then for array, let's call it event of stream. I check the event type, and if it's, let's remove that. If it's of type text delta, I basically just call this parameter, call the callback function with this delta text or an empty string. And in here, I could also console log it, so we see it in the console for now. So let's see if this mostly looks good. So I could now go down here, and instead of logging the prompt to the console and sending hi from Dino back, let's actually call the AI response function with the voice prompt. And whenever I get a text chunk back, I send this text chunk back via the WebSocket channel. It's again of type text. The token is chunk. And then I say last should be true when, not when that ends with when there's a space included. So this is, again, Copilot trying to sabotage me today. But I should say if it ends with a period or exclamation mark or question mark, then last should be set to true. So it always like speaks a full sentence and it doesn't stop in the middle of it. And now I need to make sure to close all the parentheses in the right order. Let's see if that checks out. Let's remove that first. Okay, it doesn't like the format, but it looks good to me. Oh, I think because, did I close this one up here properly? No, that looks good.
It's on the Dino serve one, the last one isn't closed, it seems.
But it was closed before, so I think only the code that I added new is something that doesn't work. Because it worked before when I ran this code.
There's another else there at the end. Is that it?
I think now it looks good. Yeah, and now I just add this else back that I had. It was just a console log with unknown message type. Okay, so one thing that, so now it would stream the reply back, but one thing that it wouldn't do is that if I asked it, hey, tell me a joke, because Chris, I know you like to do dad jokes in the show. I haven't heard one so far, so I'm still waiting for it, but we can ask the AI for one. But if I really like it and I say, tell me 5 more, right now it would say 5 more of what? I have no idea what you mean. because we don't preserve the history. But that's actually an easy fix, because OpenAI by default has the store flag on, so it saves it. We just need to tell it to which history we refer. So there is this last ID that is currently undefined, and then I could add a parameter in this call that says previous response ID, and that's the last ID. So now I only need to make sure, how do I manage this last ID across all WebSocket connections, because there could be multiple in parallel. So let's actually add a map up here. Let's go with a very simple approach, last message ID map, and it maps a WebSocket to a string. And here I basically fetch the last ID from the WebSocket, and I also pass in the WebSocket in this function call. WebSocket, spelled like that. And if I get a response back, so the final response, not a delta response, it's of type response completed. And then I can set this last message ID. I can map the WebSocket ID to the ID of the final response. I actually don't need to log this to the console. That keeps everything a bit cleaner. And then I can check up here. Let's create an input array that is empty. And if no last ID exists, which means it's the first time actually the AI talks to us, or we are talking to the AI, let's add a system prompt. You're a helpful phone assistant, keep your responses concise, and don't use bullet points. And then I push the user prompt in this array as well. In here, I just refer to this input array that I mentioned up there. And this looks all good. The only thing that's missing is I need to add the socket server, or socket is to this function call. And then I can try to call this number again. Let's go to my phone app, go on speaker.
Hi from WeAreDevelopers Live.
Hey, can you tell me a dad joke for software developers?
Why do programmers prefer dark mode? Because light attracts bugs.
Okay, that's a good one. I heard that one before. Do you have 5 more? Maybe there's a new one there.
Here are 5 more. Why do programmers hate nature? It has too many bugs. How many programmers does it take to change a light bulb? None. That's a hardware problem.
Okay, thank you. I got it. So you saw, I got some good jokes. I'm not a fan of dad jokes, to be honest. So Chris, I would leave it to you to rate them if they were any good.
That's not bad. I'm really impressed with that. This is really good, especially the interrupt stuff that it caught that on as well. So yeah, it's wow, good stuff.
Nice. And that was basically my demo. I want to go back here to this to the Twilio dashboard. I still have the QR code here that I think you should see. I will keep this phone number running for, let's say, a few more months, at least until the end of the year. So if you're watching the recording, give this number a call. You should be able to talk to the AI. Maybe you get better jokes back than me. And you basically saw how I was able to build a phone agent, like an AI agent, with less than 100 lines of code. Let's go back to see how many it was, like 91 lines of code, a Twilio account, and an OpenAI account. And I didn't have to worry about text-to-speech, speech-to-text, interrupt detection. Everything basically came in for free, and I could focus on the business logic, which in my case was just like forwarding the prompt to the LLM. And if this inspired you and you're curious to build something similar, make sure to sign up for a Twilio account. This QR code will point you to the sign-up form, and you can use this promo code WeAreDevsLive to get $30 in free credits to get started building. If you have questions, you can find me on LinkedIn, on X, on Blue Sky, on our socials, and yeah, let me know what you're building, and I'm looking forward to seeing how I could support you with that. With that, back to you, Chris and Dan.
Cool. I mean, why did you go for XML as the format? Is it so you can have a schema and validate against it, or the Twil ML?
That's a good question. So basically, Twilio was founded in 2008, and that was the main format, basically, that was used for all kinds of like transmitting information over the web, and that's why we still have it. I basically showed you the bare bone version. So there is this, for example, in the Node.js version or in the JavaScript world, there's an NPM package from Twilio, and that you could just use the package to say a new voice reply, use a connect, and so you can call functions. It will generate a TWIML for you in the background. So you're never really exposed to it if you don't want to, but I want to keep the code as minimal as possible, not add another dependency, and that's why I wrote it by hand. But I agree, the TWIML thing or the XML thing feels a bit like older or oldish.
Yeah, but I mean, I remember when I did like SOAP and stuff, like people wouldn't touch anything else because it had the validation built in, these kind of things. So that was really, yeah, fascinating to see. In terms of like language detection, and I mean, you defined English US as the main language when you started. How would you do that with automatically detecting other languages and send that back? Would that be complex to do or simpler?
Let me actually show you one thing that I also glossed a bit over. So Twilio 11 Labs voices. And maybe I find it. Maybe I add docs to it. Basically, you can also see it here in the docs that you can define it. It's optional. So you could go with the default. I would say even if I started talking in German with the AI now, it would work. It would not mess it up, but it would have some kind of an accent because we're currently selecting a specific language, a specific voice that was trained on a specific language. But there are like 1,500 voices available, I think only from 11 labs on the Twilio platform. That's what I think. It's over 1,500. So you could find a voice that works for all languages, and then you could easily switch, but I'm not sure what's happening with Chrome. I hope at least you can still hear me.
Yeah, we can, yeah, all good.
Okay, so I don't show you the docs page now. So basically, you could swap, but then obviously you would always have the best experience if this is the language spoken that you defined in the XML. But also the other question is, what would be the use cases for supporting multiple languages? I think like as a human, when you talk like in a bar, human to human, maybe then you switch between the languages, but also that doesn't happen too often. If you're a company providing a customer service hotline, you probably expect people to call in either one or two languages. So it's like today, press 1 if you want to talk in English, press 2 if you want to talk in German. And you could add that step with TWIML before you actually connect a conversation relay. Or you could actually have it update the TWIML verb. So you could have the AI notice when the customer asks for another language. And then you can update the TWIML while the call is in process. And then you can update the configuration like that.
Okay, cool. Well, that was really impressive. Thanks for sharing all of that. I think we're kind over time anyways with the show, but we didn't go to the other resource, but this was cool to see. And yeah, well done fighting Copilot, trying to be too helpful at times. That's, I mean, it's stressful to actually do live coding like that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that jokes were not that good, but yeah, I mean, as you don't like them, we're not going to do any. So that's that. Like,
And not as good as yours, Chris.
well, I mean,
Not as good as yours.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I have one. I've been to a zoo here lately, and there was just two exhibits. Like one of them was a baguette in a cage, and it said "bred in captivity," and the other one was like a small dog. So it was actually a Shih Tzu.
Damn it!
These are better than mine. These are better than the one from the AI.
Anyways, any last words from you, Marius? What do you want our community to know about? Like, except for the event, we've seen that. But what do you want people to do more that they don't do with your stuff yet?
Oh, that's a good question. So I always love when people have these fun use cases. Like I think years ago, there was someone who had these Amazon Dash buttons that you could all press if you want to have some, I don't know, more Red Bull in your fridge or so. And someone reprogrammed them to basically put it in the crib of their child, and whenever they had to go to the bathroom, he basically taught his child to press the button, and then he got a text message via Twilio that notified him when he was watching TV, like, okay, I have to go to my kid's room now. So these are the fun use cases that I love to see. So if someone comes up with something like that, please let me know, and I'm happy to give you some more free credits then.
Are dash buttons still a thing?
I don't think this was like years back.
Yeah. Because it's interesting. Every time somebody does some physical thing that actually tries to revolutionize the world, it backfires. Like the dash buttons were not the big thing that people wanted to have. And I mean that pendant, that AI pendant, that in New York, whatever it's called, that is the most hated thing at the moment. Like, and it feels weird to carry a button to talk to. It just feels sad to a degree. Dan, anything else that from your side for this show that you want to tell people about?
No, just to say thanks to Marius for the demo. I think that yeah, I always quite liked. I remember you do some interesting things at the World Congress. I think I had to send a text message to get a smoothie or something like that. I can't remember now, but it was yeah, I've always sort of from a distance, you know, been interested in what you're doing, and that demo definitely gives me some ideas, especially the one, you know, getting my kid to feed themselves or whatever it's going to do. I don't know. I'll figure it out, but yeah, it's definitely given me some inspiration to go and play around with it. So thanks for that.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Let me know. I'm very excited to always see what people build with our APIs.
Are you coming back for the Congress again?
Oh, I hope so. I mean, we're in the planning phase. I hope so, definitely. I always enjoy the event in Berlin. It's like when I was there for the first time, I really had no idea what I'm getting into. I was like, oh, this is like a biggish event, but then I think it was 9,000 people that year. But I had no idea what 9,000 people is. And then I was there and I looked around, it's like, I wish I would have prepared more. But ever since then, we are prepared.
Cool. I mean, I was saying yesterday, I was doing the keynote here at the event, and before me was the head of accessibility from GitHub, and he had his seeing eye dog with him on stage. So basically, it was impossible to compete with that. Like a really cute, like German Shepherd, and everybody was concentrating on the dog. And I said, like, it's 2 German people on stage for this one because I was right after the Shepherd, and it was really, really good. But yeah, it's interesting what people get confused with, and that was also like a huge room with lots of people here. But yeah, nothing compared to us. It's actually interesting when you talk to people about the Congress that they don't understand that we are a very small company. We're like around 50 people, and the events team is like 6-7 people that run that whole thing, and we managed to make it smoothly. I'm still absolutely shocked that we managed to pull it off every year, but it's good to see that it can work out. Because other conferences then I worked on Build, it was like teams of 600, 700 people. But that doesn't necessarily make it better or easier because they stand in each other's way. Anyways, I be off to the gym and then I start packing and I fly back to Germany. And next Wednesday we see each other again from my place. And I'm not sure who we have next week yet, but we will have somebody interesting as well and something good to talk to. So that was WeAreDevelopers Live for today. And yeah, be nice to each other out there and have fun. Thanks, Marius, and thanks, Dan. Bye-bye.
Safe travels.